Today, we're going to talk about Chevy Bolt, Chevy Cruze AV, and other things that are coming up in a Chevrolet fleet as far as electrifying their fleet. And I have a perfect guest for this. I have Shad Balch from Chevrolet Communications, so we can hear it from the horse's mouth. As you guys know, I kind of had a love-hate relationship with Chevy Bolt. This is my report that I filed last year. I was a bit of a hater then. I was always excited about the range. Chevy is really just the only company right now besides Tesla that's still ahead of pretty much everybody else as far as having 200 plus mile range. I didn't always like the look. I mean, I don't love the look now either, but I understand about the target audience that really wants a car like this. It's a hatchback, it's a compact car. So I kind of went from thinking it was a compliance car to believing that it actually has the correct look for what it is. So it definitely grew on me. I'm going to talk to Chad about it all. I'm going to ask him all of the questions. And I know some of them are from your comments over the last few months about Chevy Bolt. So I'm excited to talk to him. And we're going to start right now.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, evil in a check.
All right, if you are watching me on Patreon live, thank you so much for supporting the show. If you're watching me in replay on YouTube, welcome, and I hope you consider subscribing so you don't miss anything moving forward. Now, before I bring in Chad, of course, I just want to make sure that we we get this out of the way. And I love my sponsor and everything, but sometimes when it interrupts conversation, I don't always like that. So of course, I want to mention that this channel and this video is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. So if you're looking to shop there and save a few bucks, check out the discount code in the description of this video. I hope you find it useful so you can save a little bit of money for yourself. All right. So let's talk about Chevy Bolt. Without further ado, Chad, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I have a bunch of questions, and some of them are kind of crowdsourced from my viewers and the audience, and also myself, because I've been following Chevy and their Bolt and Bolt journey for a while. I have a video, the review video that I did, I think last year, and it's definitely something that I was excited about when Chevy came out with the Bolt, because correct me if I'm wrong, till this day, this is the only other car that has a over 200 mile range and can actually compete with Tesla in range.
Yeah, no, that is correct. The 238 mile range that was certified by the EPA at the time was the longest range or miles that you could get on an electric car at an affordable price. And we're very proud of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked at it as, oh my God, this is going to blow up. Tesla did not have Model 3 at all, even like nowhere close to the production, and a lot of people were like, oh my God, these guys beat them to the market, they're gonna rule the world. I myself, I have to say, at first I love the range, I like the insides, I like them much more than a Nissan Leaf, but I didn't like the look. Now I have to say that at first I was like, it looks like a compliance car, but now that I'm kind of realizing the target audience for them, and I literally just came from Europe myself, and I see that all cars pretty much look that way because of the space. And it is a hatchback. Even though I'm not a huge fan, I'm actually understanding that there's a humongous audience for that look. So I've kind of backed off of that. But so what's been happening since the launch? Are you guys happy with the sales? I know I've heard you guys going to maybe a ramp up sales. Can you tell us a little bit about what's been happening?
Yeah, the sales of the Bolt EV have been very strong, and we're very pleased. I mean, this is one of those what we call a halo car for the Chevrolet brand. And we look at it very similarly to the way that we look at like a Corvette or a Camaro, whereas it represents something that is very unique for Chevrolet, and it catches people's attention. It's the most technologically advanced car next to the Volt that we've probably ever built. So what it does for the brand is pretty unmatched in terms of it's putting our stake in the ground from a technological leadership position. We're very pleased.
So, and it's interesting to hear because now that we know that Model 3 has been, launching and selling, it looks like the audience for this could be much bigger, right? I mean, I can see these cars being sold, in this price range, especially, tens of thousands of them even per month, right? If you really gear it up. Do you think the sales, because you're selling about what, 1,000 to 2,000 per month right now in the US, correct?
Yeah, we've sold more than 30,000 globally. So yeah, I get that math is about right. The biggest issue with electric cars is getting people to understand the technology. And whereas for a traditional gas-powered car, we rely very heavily on traditional advertising, and there are a couple of things that catch people's attention and catch their eye that brings them into a dealership. But the one thing about electric car, the biggest feature that we're trying to explain to people is driving electric. And that's really hard to do. So the adoption rate of people understanding what it's like to drive an EV, it just takes so much longer than it would be to sell a traditional gas powered car.
So, okay, so you're saying that the reason it hasn't been selling as amazing as it could be in tens of thousands is because it is hard to sell an electric car to the audience right now, which I would agree.
Yeah, I mean and I don't want to I don't want to say that the premise is that it's not selling as well as we'd like. I mean, we're selling every one that we build. In fact, we had to ramp up production recently to meet the demand. So we're very pleased, but it's just the reason there isn't stronger consumer demand overall is because a lot of people, they don't realize what they're missing out on yet.
So, and I agree. So I agree that right now, I mean, we're obviously just as a whole community of electric car movement, we're still about 1% of global sales. Now, I know there are countries like Norway and others that are selling them like hotcakes. And as a matter of fact, in Norway, there are more electric powertrain cars sold, lately every month that they sell gas cars. But so I know, and again, maybe I only can see what I see on my TV, but I haven't seen that much effort from Chevy to maybe push that agenda. And I understand you guys have to sell it double, right? One, sell a concept for electric car, two, sell them a Chevy Bolt. Why do you think Chevy hasn't put as much maybe money or be more aggressive in convincing people to buy electric cars and specifically a Chevy Bolt?
Well, I assume that you're talking about traditional advertising, like a 30-second or 45-second commercial on TV.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's a very difficult challenge to explain the feature of driving electric and what it means, the feel and the thrill of driving electric. If you talk to any EV owner, and I know you're one yourself, so you can probably attest to this, you don't understand what it's like to drive an electric car until you not only take it for a test drive, but live with it for a few days. And the full virtue and benefit of that isn't realized and can't be understood in a 30-second or 45-second TV spot. So you're spending a lot of money on mass market advertising that at the end of the day probably isn't very effective.
Okay, so I'm wondering, and it's true, and it's also I also understand that it kind of has to come from the entire industry as well, right? You don't want to be the only ones advertising the electric cars and then everybody else selling, right? It kind of has to be a group effort. All right, so and then
yeah, and also I would say it's not just that we're selling a car, but it's really we're asking people to completely change their behavior and be a part of a bigger societal change, right? Where it's give up what you've seen in terms of transportation and refueling your entire life, and start believing in something else that's entirely different. That is very it takes a lot of understanding and getting used to.
So where do you think is the pain point there? Why do you think more people? Why do you think it's harder to convince people to go electric? And where do you think that? How can we get there? And where is that pain point?
People need to drive the cars. As soon as people drive the cars, they are a believer. There's this term called the Evie Grin. That when somebody gets out of driving an electric car, they have this big smile on their face because you can't beat the power and performance of electric drive. You have the full horsepower and torque at 0 RPM. They're silent. There's no vibration. Everything that is inherent in an electric car, we've traditionally tried to put into conventional gas-powered cars. I'd say across the board, with the exception of the refueling or recharging infrastructure, electric cars are better than gas-powered cars.
Well, I still have the grin. I still have that face from 5 years ago when the first time I sat in an electric car, and I mean, I totally understand. Interesting. I have to say that I a lot of times people say it's the charging infrastructure or it's the price point and so forth, but this is definitely I don't disagree with you. It's something that they haven't. If they haven't experienced it, that it's hard to sell it to them. I'll take that. I'll take that answer. So going back to sales, right? Because you guys might be happy with the sales. I'm not happy with the sales. I think this car should be sold in thousands, if not tens of thousands, especially in Europe. But this is what brings me to my next question. You guys have attempted to sell this car in Europe under an Opel brand. It got sold, and it's kind of the whole thing got shut down. And I understand that. I mean, that's business. But do you guys? How come you guys haven't made another attempt, or maybe you have, to bring this car to Europe, where I think it will be sold better than the United States? I feel like that car is made for Europe.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And we're still providing the vehicles to Opel, even though that we sold off that function. We're still supplying cars to Opel for the Ampera E. And in fact, we sell it all over the world. We sell it in Canada, the Bolt EV, in Europe, in the Middle East, in South Korea, in Mexico. So it is a global car. And just this past Tuesday, all GM employees got an email from our CEO, Mary Barra, talking about her commitment to bringing about 20 new all-electric cars globally to market in the next 5 years by 2023. That's 20 new cars, all electric.
I'm assuming this is a mix of all electric and plug-in hybrids, correct?
No, this is all electric. 20 all electric.
That's impressive. I'm all that. Listen, you had me at hello there then. But so wait a second. Let's go back for a second, because maybe I didn't understand you correctly. So are you saying that Bolt EVs are being sold under the Chevy brand in Europe right now?
In Europe it's under the Opel brand.
Okay, still. So that's still being sold, because my impression was that it's kind of down to a halt. And they kind of stopped selling them just because the new owners are kind of decided not to. The new, I think it was a PSA that was sold it to.
And we had pulled off or closed the Chevrolet distribution in Europe about a year and a half ago. I think we pulled out of Europe to export Chevrolets over there, but we are still providing the Ampera E for Opel.
Yeah. But do you think, and I would love to see this, do you think Chevy will start selling them just as Bolt EVs without Opel brand at some point in Europe?
I'm not sure what brand it would fall under. I mean, Chevrolet doesn't have a presence in Europe, so it would probably be under something else. But, I shouldn't really speculate on the future product announcements. I don't have quite that pay grade yet.
Well, whoever you got to talk to, please, +1 right here, because I think Chevy Bolt would be a success in Europe. But I mean, they still have a lot of incentives. It is a hatchback, and I think this is one of the things that people really wanted out of the Model 3 and didn't get it. Obviously, it's a compact size, and the range is more than enough, especially for Europe.
Yeah.
So another, obviously, a reason, and I think that's a pretty, there's a consensus here that, and I hope you agree, that one of the reasons people don't adopt electric cars is because of the infrastructure, right? Some of them don't have ability to charge at home. Some of them are afraid to go, not being able to go on a long trip. What do you guys see as an infrastructure for electric cars in the next few years? And is Chevy looking to maybe invest in something, or kind of rely as the third-party fast charging networks kind of pop up here and there? What is the plan there?
Well, I'd first need to address the first part of what you just said, and I think that it's not the lack of infrastructure in as much as it's the perception of what it means that there's not infrastructure. So the data shows and supports that, people take 75-80% of all drivers take trips of less than 50 miles a day. So that's a lot of cars and a lot of drivers. And we certainly haven't even made a dent in transitioning all of those drivers into electric cars. So there's a big perception issue because we don't see chargers all over the place like we do gas stations, that people are going to get stranded, that there's not enough charging infrastructure. That's the first part. The second part is that you're absolutely right. There does need to be a robust charging infrastructure network, if for no other reason than we can all market these cars easier. So that we can say in a commercial, yes, you can drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco, or even further from, coast to coast. Being able to say that with confidence will help sell cars eventually. But there's a lot of third-party efforts currently underway to address infrastructure and to figure out the best places to install them. What the various business models would be, because there's some localities where charging is free and it's tied to preferred parking. Other places want to figure out revenue streams, which is all good. We're brand new in this. The modern EVs are relatively brand new compared to how long we've had cars on the road. So we're still just figuring this out. There's a lot to be figured out.
I agree. So with just so everybody knows, Chevy Bolt right now is equipped to accept fast charging, to be able to fast charge. Can you talk a little bit about the specs there and what can happen if you are the fast charging station, which is growing with especially Electrify America, really kind of gearing up this year for sure.
Yeah, so the car has an option for an SAE combo DC fast charger capability, and that basically, you plug it in and you can get 90 miles of range in about 30 minutes. So that is that's sort of like the cream of the crop in terms of the fast charging that you can get on this car. The car does come with a level 2 charging, or I'm sorry, a level 1 charging system that plugs into a regular household outlet. That, of course, is the slowest possible way to charge the car. But level 2 and level 3 are the best ways to charge the car.
Absolutely, and so let's talk about the dealerships, because the experience that a customer will have and does have now when they buy an electric car is different, especially because of the after purchase maintenance than if you were to buy a gas car, right? There's much less maintenance. What do you see moving forward? How maybe a dealership model will change or evolve as the customer needs are becoming a little bit different when they buy electric cars?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. When you buy an electric car, you get a lot less maintenance and wear and tear with an electric car that you do in a gas-powered car. And all of your viewers probably are aware of this. There's just fewer moving parts. There's less. There's no engine that's exploding in pistons and cylinders and things like that. So no oil changes, things like that. The dealer model is going to have to adjust to this because we're committed, GM is, to moving to an all-electric future. Our CEO says that on repeat all the time. So the dealer model is going to have to change, and what it looks like exactly is to be determined. I know that most dealers make a bulk of their money on used car sales. That probably won't go away, and it'll slowly also transition to electric cars on the used car market. But that's probably where the bulk of their money will come from in the future. But the notion that there's less maintenance and less time having to repair the car is a good thing. I don't care if you're a dealer or a customer or a manufacturer. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. I mean, I haven't been to a service center, for kind of maintenance like in years. And obviously that's one of the bigger selling points as well, right? Because it's money that customers will save by not having to do oil changers or transmission fluids flushes or whatever it is that people do. I don't remember. But so let's switch topics right now, and let's talk about Cruise, right? This is a company you guys bought to sort of to acquire self-driving technology, and it's been doing pretty good. Can you tell us a little bit about it, and especially about the Cruise AV that we've seen all these pictures and videos about, with no steering wheel? Tell us where we're going with this.
Well, we're building them. So we have a couple hundred of them on the road right now doing development work. There's a few in San Francisco. We have some in Arizona. And the technology that Cruise has come up with and the partnership that we now have with them, or we own them now, but the collaboration between what they're doing in San Francisco, along with all of our engineering prowess in Michigan, we're set to start building these off the line. Once we finally get there to a place where we can put these in commercial fleets.
So is this for us customers, or this is just for your ride sharing service or for someone else's sharing service?
Right now we're still in development work, but you will see first probably these self-driving cars in rideshare fleets like Lyft, for example, because that allows us to deploy these vehicles in a very controlled environment. So say, for example, we did this in San Francisco. Speeds are very low. The perimeter of where these cars would travel is very contained, and it would allow us to also introduce this technology to consumers. How are people going to feel when they hop into a vehicle that is not being driven by a human being? All of that needs to be taken into consideration.
So, all right. So this is going to be for the ride-sharing service, and it looks like everybody else is kind of in agreement with that. Where it's let's not give it to humans first. Let's give it to a control environment where the ride-sharing services is really in charge. But when do you think we can let humans play around with this? And I'm talking about like level 4, level 5 autonomy that we can let almost anybody who buys a car, own and enjoy.
A lot has to happen before we can start selling these to retail customers. The data will always show that self-driving technology is safer than a human-driven vehicle. We know that. We know that to be true. So figuring out the best policies that local governments play, all the way up to bigger public policy initiatives, all of that has to be done first to help ready the market. And I think there's a lot of unknowns at the moment in terms of, are we going to put these cars on the streets with other human-powered vehicles or human-driven vehicles, or do we need a controlled environment where it's only autonomous powered vehicles? But I think regardless, we're starting to see a lot of the autonomous or AV technologies coming into cars right now. You have it in your Tesla. My Cadillac CT6 with Super Cruise is one of the most advanced autonomous-like features for a cruise control type system, autonomous vehicle system on the market. So you're seeing dabs of this right now, and in addition to that being a feature for drivers, it also allows us to test the technology and figure out what we need to do to take the next steps to go fully autonomous.
When do you think you guys will actually release or there will be the very first customer ride in one of these with no steering wheel? And can I be there for it?
Yeah, you and me both. I would love to be there for that. You have seen we did make a Bolt EV that does not have a steering wheel. But even that, we have to get laws passed that allow us to build cars without a steering wheel. So there's so much behind the scenes work that has to be done beforehand, if at least simultaneous to us developing this technology. So we're working hard to get that done. California has allowed us to do a lot, and we're very grateful for the leadership role that the administration and the legislature have played here to help enable this sort of technology. But we need more of that, and we need it, all across the country, because these vehicles aren't going to be, just sold in certain markets eventually.
And this is a tough time for self-driving technology as far as like PR is concerned. I mean, we just had, Uber crash and a Tesla crash, and there was a Tesla crash just the other day, right? It looks like it had nothing to do with the self-driving technology. As a matter of fact, self-driving technology would have helped to prevent it because it would have held those two girls, I think, to a speed limit, and yet, the media is all over for it, all over it. But how can we sell this to? I keep asking this. How can we sell this to the public? That even this it seems like it's a struggle.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, I think the task of deploying a technology like this to the mass market, it's daunting from a PR perspective for sure. This is for sure a technologist's initiative. It's going to take a lot of foresight and initiative for markets to put this in place. It'll happen. I mean, the data is going to support the need for this technology when you start comparing on a grander scale self-driving cars and human-driven cars, and you start looking at the data about collisions and crashes. This is going to play an integral part of that story and of that PR when the technology finally hits the market in mass.
Well, I hope so. Last question. Where do you think we're going? Where do we think we're heading, and Chevy in particular, with electric car and self-driving car? What do you think is going to be, let's say, in 5 years? What are we going to see? We're going to see a major shift, for consumers or maybe, businesses and so forth towards electric cars? Or do you think this is going to be kind of a slow but steady sort of series of wins for us as a community, and it just has to happen over a certain period of time? So let's talk about, let's say, 2023 or so, 5 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, you picked 2023, which is the target date that our CEO has said we're going to have 20 new all-electric vehicles on the road. So, and I say that without, with understanding that GM is, the second largest car maker in the world. When we say something like this, it's meaningful. And right now we do build trucks and crossovers, but the technology that we're doing on the electric side, we're able to scale up, and eventually we'll be able to apply to these other products. Trucks are our number one selling product, and our CEO still says we're going to have a zero crash, zero congestion, zero emission future. So we're saying all of this knowing full well that means our full product line is going to be a part of that. So the next 5 years, you'll have 20 new all electrics from us. Beyond that, it's going to be a transition like we've never seen before. Something that, in all of our lifetime, we will have never seen such a monumental shift from one energy source to the next.
I can't wait for all of that. I agree with you. I think this is where we're heading. I mean, I talk more and more and more about there's so many more new stories and so many more tech advances that we've made in this in this niche. So it's been exciting. I have to say, as excited I am about Chevy and Chevy Bolt moving forward, I really hope you guys push forward faster. I really hope you get to Europe and China, and you have the technology. I really want to see all these other cars that you're working on, and obviously the ones without the steering wheel. So I hope to stay in touch. I hope I'll have you on, in another half a year or so, and we can talk about so many more exciting things that are coming out of Chevy in the next 6 to 12 months.
Anytime, Alex. This is one of my favorite subjects to talk about, so I'm happy to yap with you anytime.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let me know in the comment section what you guys thought. I thought this was a pretty good, informative interview, and even though I told Chad that I have some not such easy questions that I was going to ask, I really appreciate him coming on the show. I understand. Chevy and a lot of manufacturers are kind of in a tough place, right? Because on one hand, their main audience is still mainly interested in gas cars. On another hand, this is the future, and it looks like they acknowledge that. So I'm interested to see where this is going. I'm hoping to have them back on the show and see where they're at, maybe in another half a year to a year. Of course, I would love to cover any type of news and events that they're going to be putting out there. I know there are a few car shows coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. Another successful interview, if you ask me. I love doing this. This is the chance where I get to actually talk to the sources and to the people who are actually working on these cars and working for these car companies. Let me know what you thought. But other than that, I will see you guys next time. And remember to stay charged.